Here's what's coming up on the program. 5 people killed after an SUV ran into a Christmas parade in the U.S. state of Wisconsin. Polish guards say hundreds of migrants have tried crossing the border from Belarus. Plus, Russia's President Vladimir Putin takes a booster shot of COVID-19 vaccine. A warm welcome to the program today. I'm Amarachi Ubani in Lagos. We begin in the U.S. state of Wisconsin, where at least 5 people have been killed and more than 40 others injured after a car plowed into a Christmas parade. School bands and a dance troupe of grannies were among those marching through the city of Waukesha when a red SUV came speeding down the road. Dozens of people were hit, including children.
What was supposed to be an annual tradition going back 15 years for the Sing Sim family to attend the annual Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, turned into a nightmare as a red SUV ran into people participating in a parade. Jody Sing Sim's husband first spotted the van at a distance, and she remembers him commenting that the driver must be lost. The Waukesha Police Department says on its Facebook page that 5 people were killed and more than 40 injured after the incident on Sunday. Interestingly, she caught the incident on camera and then sprung into action, trying to help those who were hurt. Waukesha police told reporters a person of interest had been put into custody and a vehicle had been recovered after the incident in the town. It was not known whether the incident was related to terrorism, but there was no further danger, and an earlier shelter-in-place order in the town of around 72,000 had been lifted. The parade in Waukesha is traditionally held every year on Sunday before Thanksgiving and includes fancy dresses, floats, dancers and marching bands. This year's theme was comfort and joy.
It was on this day, 58 years ago, that then U.S. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated while driving through Dallas, Texas in an open-top convertible along a parade route. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy was by his side that fateful day when 3 shots allegedly fired by Lee Harvey Oswald from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository fatally wounded the president and seriously injured then Texas Governor John Connally. The president was pronounced dead 30 minutes later at Dallas Parkland Hospital. He was only 46, beg your pardon. Fiancé to slain Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, Hatice Cengiz, has asked singer Justin Bieber to cancel his scheduled December 5th performance in Saudi Arabia's second largest city, Jeddah, urging him not to perform for the slain Saudi journalist murderers. Cengiz wrote an open letter to the singer published on Saturday in the Washington Post, in which she urged Bieber to cancel the performance to send a powerful message to the world that, quote, your name and talent will not be used to restore the reputation of a regime that kills its critics. President Joe Biden's administration released a U.S. intelligence report in February implicating Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Khashoggi's 2018 murder in Istanbul, but spared him any direct punishment. The Crown Prince denies any involvement. Bieber, who is a Canadian, is among a group of artists scheduled to perform as Saudi Arabia hosts the Formula One Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Jeddah. Thousands of people today attended the funeral of 25-year-old Eliyahu K., an Israeli who was shot dead by a Hamas gunman in Jerusalem. The Palestinian gunman from the Islamist group killed K and wounded 3 other people in Jerusalem's Old City on Sunday before being shot dead by police. The incident, the second attack in Jerusalem in 4 days, occurred near one of the gates of the flashpoint Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, the 3rd holiest site in Islam. Jews revere the site as the remnant of 2 ancient temples. Hamas identified the gunman as one of its leaders in East Jerusalem, among areas where Palestinians seek statehood. Unlike the more moderate Palestinian Authority, which governs the Israeli-occupied West Bank, Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip, refuses permanent coexistence with Israel. Britain on Friday banned Hamas, bringing London's stance in line with the United States and the European Union. Polish border guards say hundreds of migrants have attempted to cross over from Belarus to Poland this weekend. Speaking to the press, spokesperson Anna Michowska said over the past 24 hours, there were at least 346 attempts to cross the Polish border from Belarus. She says they used 58 expulsion orders and on Saturday had 212 attempts across the border as well and gave out 31 expulsion orders. The number on Friday was 200 for attempts and 82 for expulsions.
The complaint about the border crisis continues as Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said he would continue to speak to Poland's allies to head off what he says could be the worst waiting for us. On Sunday, he visited a guard post on the border with Belarus. He had made similar comments during his meeting in Vilnius with his counterpart from the Baltic states. The European Union accuses Belarus of flying in thousands of people from the Middle East and pushing them to cross into EU and NATO members Poland, Lithuania and Latvia in response to European sanctions. One Iraqi migrant at the border says he was with a group which was forcibly brought to the Lithuania border by Belarusian troops who ignored their wish to go back to Iraq. He said border guards brought them from around Minsk to the border in army trucks. The group has contacted the Iraqi embassy asking for help and awaiting a response. Another migrant, this time a Kurd, said he started his journey to Europe to improve his health situation.
I came from the Istanbul to the Minsk. I chose this journey because I had very, very bad psychology. As everybody knows, health is wealth. I came here for my health, not for anything else. Probably if you ask these people, why did you leave your country? They will probably answer for a better life. But me, no, for a better health. So I'm pretty sure there are organizations or maybe people will be able to help me to get my health better. Yeah. Yes, and right now my psychology is so bad.
Aid workers have been handing out bowls of hot food to migrants at a border camp in the Grodno region near Poland. A fast food truck opened next to the warehouse where the migrants received their food handout in the border camp. The hot food and coffee was certainly generating interest among the migrants who have been camping in the forest or in temporary accommodation for weeks. But it wasn't generating as much of a crowd as a nearby tent where queues of migrants wait for their daily handouts of food. In the meantime, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said he was waiting for an answer from the European Union on whether the bloc will accept 2,000 stranded migrants on the Belarusian border. He has also warned that Poland should consider the consequences of acting on a threat to close a border railway crossing, saying rail traffic could be diverted to run through a conflict zone in eastern Ukraine in such a scenario.
To remind you of our lead story at this hour, which is 5 people have been killed, dozens more injured after a red SUV plowed into a crowd on a Christmas parade in the Wisconsin town of Waukesha. 5 people died, scores were killed, school bands, a downstrip of grannies, and dozens of children were also involved in the attack. Also today, 58 years ago, JFK, former U.S. president, was assassinated. Our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, joins us now. Maria, not similar events, but cars were involved nonetheless. What is the update with the accident, if we can refer to what happened in Wisconsin as that?
Yes, it's hard to believe that it's being called an accident. We know at this time that there is someone under custody. We have not yet been given information if that is the person that was driving the SUV, but there is someone under custody. There's not a further update as to whether or not there have been any arrest, but there is an active case. The schools have been closed down today. Many of the roads are closed in that community and in that area where the actual incident did occur. And so it is still a very active investigation. And the police are now working to see how they can quickly come to some sort of idea as to actually how this happened, what was the motives behind it. And so we can expect in the coming hours, and definitely by the end of the day here in the U.S., that there should be a press conference addressing the actual incident and exactly what did occur.
Yeah, we should be hearing from the police, I know, but they say they have a suspect in custody. Have they said any more as to what could have led anyone in their right mind driving into such a beautiful and traditional parade, ruining lives and also ruining Christmas for the people of Waukesha?
They do not know the motive for this. And as you said, just having someone drive an SUV, and they're not even, as it said, there's no one under arrest. And so they have not even identified that this was not an accident, that this was intentional. And so those are the things we're expecting to hear from. Was this an intentional SUV crash into the actual parade? Was this actually someone that lost control of their vehicle? Those are still unending questions, and I think that the investigation is still looking into, and hopefully when that press conference does come from the police chief, that it will identify the actual motive and all that surrounded this situation.
Finally, Maria, 58 years it's been since former President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated. How are Americans remembering the former president today?
The former president has been, I think, one that has been celebrated typically in the U.S. for much of his work that he did, even though he served a very short time here in the U.S. But it's a time of remembrance. We also know that there's so much that is continuing to surround that, and knowing that those were those individuals that were deeply impacted by that. And we know that many of the Kennedys are still around, but there have been many on that passed on as well. You look at Robert F. Kennedy, you look at Ted Kennedy, Jackie Onassis, even the son, JFK Jr. So it's a time of remembrance, but I think that as we look at the Build Back Better plan and the most recent bills that have passed, that, I think, is what Americans are looking at. Are we going to find ourselves back in a position where people felt that the U.S. was being invested in, and they felt that the Kennedy years and the Johnson years were one that the U.S. Definitely was headed toward. And as we look at civil rights and civil justice, those were some key factors that began with the Kennedy administration and obviously were followed through with the Johnson administration. And that's much of the focus, obviously, in the U.S. today, some 58 years later, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I do remember reading a lot about him, just growing up and being in school and just learning about American history and so on. Maria, thanks again for keeping us updated.
Thank you for having me.
We have more stories coming up on the World Today Plus. Oh, do you feel Christmas yet? Maybe the Champs-Élysées could help with all the lights on the trees. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We're in Europe. German NGO ship Sea-Watch 4 carrying 482 migrants was waiting to be assigned a port today after 7 rescue operations carried out in the Mediterranean Sea. And on Thursday last week, the ship's crew members rescued 90 migrants from an overcrowded wooden boat off the coast of Lampedusa, and 6 other migrants who, according to Sea-Watch, jumped into the sea from a Libyan Coast Guard patrol boat. Sea Watch 4 asked Italian authorities reports of safety for the migrants on board, including 17 pregnant women and 148 minors. Italy has seen a sharp rise in boat migrants in recent weeks, and the latest mass arrivals will put further pressure on Prime Minister Mario Draghi's government to secure an agreement with European Union partners over how to deal with the influx.
Come here. First. Good. Contact.
One by one. One by one. Point one.
She was said to be missing, but apparently found. The Women's Tennis Association says a call between Peng Shuai and the president of the International Olympic Committee has not addressed its concerns over the Chinese players' well-being. An IOC statement after the call said Peng appeared to be safe and well. A 35-year-old Peng disappeared from the public eye for almost 3 weeks after she made sexual assault allegations against a senior Chinese minister. China claims the tennis star has attended public activities and has been seen. Even Amnesty International has waded into the matter, calling on the IOC to protect itself against potential whitewashing of human rights allegations.
International Olympics Committee is entering dangerous waters. They should be extremely careful not to participate in any whitewash of possible human rights violations. In the past, we have seen various similar cases where people had no option but to say what they had been told to. The call between the IOC and Peng Shuai is hardly convincing that Peng Shuai has full and genuine freedom of expression, liberty, security, and movement. Instead, the committee should facilitate and promote athletes' wishes to speak out against human rights violations. And they should also push for better human rights protections, including freedom of expression and effective investigations of these allegations in China.
Well, we're looking at aerial images showing flooding in the Canadian province of British Columbia. This was taken yesterday, Sunday. Massive floods and mudslides caused by extreme rainfall destroyed roads, bridges and homes and cut 2 critical east-west rail lines and later Canada's busiest port in Vancouver. The disaster looks set to be the costliest natural disaster to ever hit Canada. The railway shutdowns have left exporters of commodities scrambling to divert shipments away from Vancouver and underscore the vulnerability of Canada's supply chains to climate change.
For the next indeterminate period of time, the Air Task Force is here on the ground in Abbotsford supporting Canadians. We're here to help out the provincial governments and assist wherever we can. Over the last number of days, 2 of my helicopters moved approximately 6,000 pounds of cargo to 2 different First Nations reserves that were cut off by road. So that was a very good task for us, for our aircraft, and very fortunate for us to take part in. It feels very good to help Canadians in need. Past Agassiz is where generally people start to abide by the...
Sent on to India, flush with victory after Prime Minister Narendra Modi caved into demands for agricultural reform laws to be repealed. Indian farmers held a mass rally today to demand minimum support prices be extended to all produce, not just rice and wheat. The protest movement, launched by farmers more than a year ago, became the most serious political challenge to the Hindu nationalist government and resulted in Modi making a surprise commitment on Friday to roll back the reforms. Thousands, as you see there, gathered for the latest rally in Lucknow, the capital of Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, where Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party will seek to hold on to power in state elections due early next year. Since late 2020, thousands of farmers have camped on the outskirts of New Delhi as part of a mass agitation to pressurize Prime Minister Modi into rolling back the reforms. His climb down sparked celebrations by farmers, but their leaders immediately warned that the protest would continue until the government promised to introduce a law that would guarantee minimum prices for all crops.
बीच कानून ये लेकर आना चाहते हैं तो ये बहुत से सवाल हैं इन पर सब पर बातचीत कर
From one protest to another, Sudan's military reinstated Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok on Sunday and then promised to release all political detainees after weeks of deadly unrest triggered by a coup. Though large crowds took to the streets to reject any deal involving the army. Under this new agreement signed with military leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, Hamdok, first appointed after the overthrow of autocrat Omar al-Bashir in a 2019 uprising, will lead a civilian government of technocrats for a transitional period. The deal faces opposition from pro-democracy groups that have demanded full civilian rule ever since Bashir was ousted and have been angered by the deaths of dozens of protesters in the weeks following the coup, which occurred on October 25th. Thousands of people joined scheduled rallies in the capital, Khartoum, and its twin cities of Omdurman and Bari. Security forces fired bullets and tear gas to disperse them. One 16-year-old died from a bullet wound, according to doctors and the Central Committee of Sudan. A coup triggered mass demonstrations against the military, and medics aligned with the protest movement say security forces have killed 41 civilians in increasingly violent crackdowns so far. And as we end the program today, it's Christmas, whether it's December or not. And the Champs-Élysées Avenue in Paris was lit up in red. We'll see that in a moment. For the Christmas season starting Sunday in the presence of Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo and French celebrity singer Clara Luciani. Hundreds turned out for the occasion, contrary to last year, when France observed a lockdown against the spread of COVID-19 and only a handful of officials turned up for a ceremony broadcast live on the internet. Look at it. Isn't it beautiful? Considered by the French to be the most beautiful avenue of the world, the Champs-Élysées spreads over nearly 2 kilometers and is lined with stores and restaurants. At the top stands the Arc de Triomphe, a landmark monument of the French capital. Well, I guess nothing says Christmas like Christmas lights. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.